Welcome everyone to the Optima Raleigh office. Optima Engineering is actually based in Charlotte, and the main office is still in Charlotte. Our principal engineer started the Raleigh office actually, I'd say 5 or 6 years now. He was actually here with only 2 people for a little while. But this is our front entrance. Guests come in from the elevator. We've got a reception desk, artwork done by a local artist. It was actually recently featured on Design Network. A waiting area for them if we're starting a conference room or a conference meeting. And here we have our large conference room. This is good for kind of company-wide meetings, as well as meeting with clients or architects where we can kind of all come together and collaborate. It's good to have everybody in when we're not in COVID times together to kind of talk out the design with structural and architectural, as well as our engineering disciplines like mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. We can have conference calls in here. We also have some good daylighting being near an exterior, kind of views of downtown Raleigh. And then we oftentimes do our conference calls, company trainings, meetings, like quarterly meetings, just to get everyone together. And before we started having to work from home for COVID, we would oftentimes have kind of quarterly or monthly meetings together as an office. And then heading back into the reception. On the side here, we have a smaller conference room that's perfect for when the large conference room is occupied, or when we have a smaller team that's collaborating. Oftentimes just internal among our company, if we have design where we want to coordinate on the mechanical and the electrical and the plumbing designs, we'll meet in here, lay out the plans, look at each other's designs, and just collaborate and make sure that the systems all work well together. And then heading down towards the offices, we've got lots of work surfaces laid out along the space where you can place prints. It's oftentimes a really good idea to take your design from the computer, print it out physically on pieces of paper, because what you'll often find out is you'll catch things or notice things that you wouldn't notice on the computer, as well as sometimes things print a little weird. And at the end of the day, our product that we deliver to a contractor is on paper. And so we need to make sure that our paper designs match what our intention is on a digital design. And then you can see these professional engineering certificates on the wall. This is for each of the engineers, the professional engineers in our office. If you become an engineer who designs buildings, you're required to be certified as a professional engineer. And that involves continuing education every year to make sure you're up to speed on current technologies and just know your practice. And then heading over here, we've got a couple of enclosed offices for our principals in the company. It allows them to kind of close the door and have meetings with employees or with clients, kind of business development. It allows them to kind of conduct meetings without affecting or bothering the workflow of the rest of the company. And then over here we have our break room. It's mostly a pretty standard break room setup for companies. It allows us to kind of obviously make our lunches and interact with each other when it's not COVID times. We have some communal snacks and coffee machine and teas and stuff. Just kind of your usual fare to keep people productive and happy throughout the day. And we also have our post board for just general announcements or company-wide things we want to share with the rest of the company. Including a shout out to Ace, of course. And then heading on out to the general cubicle office, the open office. The cubicle walls are high enough that when you're sitting at the office space, you kind of have a private zone to work in, kind of, focus and not be distracted. While at the same time, if you stand up, it's low enough that you're able to talk to coworkers or interact or socialize as needed. It's really helpful to have a collaborative environment like that. And we again see more workspaces. Engineers love to have plenty of space to be able to lay plans out. along with catalogs and code references. Part of engineering is taking our design and ensuring that it fits to the requirements of the building codes or electrical or fire protection codes, as well as we need to know the specifications of the equipment that we're using in our design. And so the salespeople for those pieces of equipment will oftentimes leave catalogs for us to have an idea of what's available. As well as your printer and large format plotter are here to be able to print those designs that you saw earlier. So we can either deliver them for a project or just review. Okay. So you can see this is the full-size set, whereas this is the half-size set. It's a little easier to carry to job sites or print out for review. Because it's a half-size, any of the sheet scales that are listed on the sheet are actually going to be a half-size off. So this would actually be a 1/16 equals 1 foot, which you can still use a scale for. It's just you have to keep in mind when you print the setting that it's not exactly what's listed on the sheet itself. It's still useful to have half-size prints to be able to kind of scale off of, but the final product, once again, is a full-size set. And so these are kind of more used to just kind of go out to the site and check things off and ensure that the designs match what's being built. So oftentimes we'll use a more zoomed out scale, like the 1/8" scale for the overall floor plan. But then when we start looking at more detailed work, where we're looking at a specific room or sets of rooms where we want to kind of zoom in and see individual detail, we'll go into a smaller scale size. So for this situation, we've got a 1/4 inch per 1 foot to show more detail involved with this unit plan specifically. As well as a little bit of space that we've laid out for cornhole set just to kind of blow off some steam after hours, of course. And they've been used quite often. Nice shot. And we also have a touchdown space to either eat lunch or come together for kind of a small impromptu meeting just among the team. Kind of creates a little common space for people to meet. And then we'll head back over to my desk. And we've been lucky with our office space that we've occupied. The office used to be about 1/3 of the overall space we've seen. And so we've been able to kind of stretch the office a little bit. We originally started, like I said, with only 2 people in the office, and we're up to 17. So we're lucky in the sense that we still have plenty of space to be able to kind of spread people out as they work in the office. And you'll see some empty desks that allows us to kind of separate. But we've been able to spread out and have more exterior window space to be able to look out downtown. And then here's my workspace. You'll notice as I walk around the space, different people have different layouts or thought processes towards how they organize their desk. You either have more messy or more clean, whatever works and keeps you productive. It's nice to have just kind of space to be able to set plans out, reference material, mementos and stuff to just kind of make it feel more like home. I actually grew up with an engineering father, and I don't know if it was his influence or just my own curiosity, but I oftentimes found myself trying to take things apart or understanding how they worked. I don't think it was till high school maybe that I really felt like I wanted to be an engineer. It was actually a high school physics teacher who introduced a nice little project to us that talked about electric motors, and this was actually the kit that he had us build in high school. And he kind of mentioned a point that kind of stuck with me, that the electric motor and really automotive and car motors were extremely inefficient. Only about 20% of the energy that's used in the gasoline is actually used to drive. And that really kind of motivated me to want to get into energy efficiency design and like really push that farther forward. And so I definitely felt a draw towards mechanical engineering. It's a very broad engineering subject, so I'm able to do a variety of different industries. And I've discovered through college, which, 4-year program usually, oftentimes with engineers, it's 5 years. I ended up interspersing some of my semesters with co-op versus internship, which is highly recommended before you get out of school. You can say you've got some industry experience and work experience to go along with your resume. But I think learned in college that buildings were actually a significant portion of energy usage. And so that led me to want to design more efficient buildings and kind of promote energy efficiency in building design. So I went to NC State, go Wolfpack, and a number of people in our office are NC State grads, including Amanda back there. We have a few UNC Charlotte 49ers. Morgan right here is a 49er, and Gary actually our office principal is. So there's a number of really good engineering firms, engineering universities in the area. And I think the Raleigh area is a really good place for firms because there's so much good technical talent available. So as for layouts of how the cubicles are laid out and where people's desks are, we've tried to kind of intersperse. We have some people who are the same engineering discipline together, but then we also interact very closely with others. All of the people in the Raleigh office tend to do a variety of projects. I can think of currently right now I'm working on some laboratory spaces, I'm working on offices, working on some both commercial offices as well as university offices, just a whole range of different project styles. And so I'm a mechanical engineer, a coworker here is an electrical engineer, Amanda is also an electrical engineer, and then 2 desks down would be another mechanical engineer, electrical, and so it's kind of interspersed throughout. Our main office in Charlotte is actually laid out in teams, so they might have a mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers who all do schools together, and so they're on a schools team, or they might be in offices or a healthcare team or a laboratory team. So they've kind of arranged their office a little differently than we have in Raleigh, and I think it probably works better for us being a smaller office. And then I'll go ahead and pull up a little bit example of some of the work that I do day to day. So our office actually works on a 4 days a week. We'll work until 5:30, and then on Fridays we actually get off of work at 1 p.m., which gives us a little bit of time in the afternoon to start the weekend early. So we have here an example of some AutoCAD design, Autodesk AutoCAD. So that's all done in 2 dimensions, and you can see here kind of an electrical power plan, as well as lighting, and then ductwork, which is my own personal design. And then to tie into what Gensler mentioned in their video, we oftentimes use Revit as a 3-dimensional design tool to collaborate the architectural as well as structural elements. You can see here as a see-through, the green and other colored items are all mechanical systems in this building, which you might recognize in North Hills. Just recently got built is North Hills Tower 4, right off of the highway. And so it's good to definitely have 2 monitors to be able to work through the workflow. You can have email on one side, designing on the other, or oftentimes we'll have PDF references on one side to reference equipment information or existing conditions that we can then use in our design. So in our reception area, we actually have a TV just kind of flicking through some of the past projects we've done. We do anything from shell office buildings where they build the outside of the building. This is Crabtree mixed use. You might have driven by it by Crabtree Valley Mall. You can kind of see in through the windows in some locations that the actual interior of the building hasn't been built out yet, but it provides an open space for tenants like we are in this building to come in, build their office out, and have a building to move into. This is a medical office building, similar idea for Duke Medicine, Duke Health that we did. We got a few shots of that. We actually did the core spaces for these, as well as a few of the actual upfit design in the tenant spaces themselves. And so we were responsible for both the mechanical HVAC, the electrical, plumbing, and you'll see some fire alarm devices as well, which are fire safety code required items. So this is actually near Chapel Hill on Highway 15501. It's an office building mixed with the fire department. So we designed both the firehouse as well as the office building shell next to it. And so the two spaces worked together architecturally, as well as kind of used some of the same MEP designs. We've also designed some hotels as well. This here is a hotel over at Elon, up in Burlington. So we did the mechanical, electrical, as well as fire protection and plumbing design for these spaces. And a hotel offers some interesting challenges in that you have these common area spaces that you have to design around. And then you also have the guest rooms themselves, which offer a completely different requirement than the common areas do. So this is a good example, I think at NC State, of a project where we had 3D printers and we needed to exhaust the fumes that were coming off of those printers. And so we helped to design and develop the exhaust system and ventilation system to keep those fumes from affecting the occupants. And one of our NC State grads in our office actually worked on this project, so he's got a 3D printed NC State S logo. This is a construction project that Belinda and I actually volunteered with an architect on. My tacky Christmas sweater one winter. That's our office principal on my shirt.